What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to 14 Personnel and another edition of the 5-Minute Debate. Today, I am joined by none other than Matt Harmon, the founder, the creator of Reception Perception, a lead fantasy analyst over at Yahoo. If you don't know him, you probably should. Matt, how's it going, man?
Man, things are good. I really appreciate you having me on. It's an exciting time. Like, everything is seemingly happening. You know, we're getting all of these little tidbits of information, some that matter, some that don't, out of training camp. I know we'll probably come up with a few of those particular talking points in our little discussion today.
The timing of that report could not have been any better, I don't think. So if you guys are not aware, we are talking Brandon Aiyuk versus Ja'Marr Chase on the heels of an interesting report, to say the least, for Ja'Marr here. So you know what, Matt? I got my timer ready here. I'm going to throw it to you first. You're taking Brandon Aiyuk. I am taking Ja'Marr Chase. What do you have on Brandon Aiyuk for the 2021 season?
Yeah, and I love that you presented the list of guys that you did, because these two players in particular I have in the exact same tier. Wide receiver tier 4 for me. Tiers are on receptionperception.com if people want to check them out. Aiyuk is at the top of the tier. Chase is at the bottom of the tier. So again, like perfect little guys to go back and forth on here. With Aiyuk in particular, I mean, he is one of these players in reception perception history that you really just don't want to bet against. You know, a guy that that finished at 88th percentile success rate versus man coverage in his rookie year. You know, I don't really get too hung up on the small sample of games for, you know, when Kittle and Debo and Aiyuk were out there, like whatever Ayuk's target share in that game. I don't really get into all that because it's such a small, narrow sample of games. And again, when a player like Aiyuk is out there winning at every level on the route tree and getting treated like an alpha receiver the longer his rookie year went on, I think these players just start to command volume. And don't get me wrong, dude. Like, I know there are a lot of questions just about the volume of the offense, right? Like I think actually probably my podcast producer at Yahoo, Brett, is probably sick of me saying this, because I feel like I say it every episode, but like getting the 49ers right is probably the key to winning fantasy football in 2021. Yeah. Part of that is just how much of the overall offense is going to change when Trey Lance does eventually get in there. That's going to affect Brandon Aiyuk, but I think you can easily get him in a projection situation to get him about 110 targets. And I think at his ADP, I think he can still exceed that, just because I expect this offense to be more efficient when Lance does take over.
Yeah, absolutely. And just speaking to ADP, right now they're going off the board back-to-back, wide receiver 23, wide receiver 24 over on Fantasy Pros. Funny enough, that's exactly where I have them ranked for the 2021 season. Again, they are literally back-to-back for me. So again, I am on the Ja'Marr Chase side of this argument, but I'm not anti-Brandon Aiyuk. With Ja'Marr Chase, it's really about the role he's stepping into. I mean, he's stepping into AJ Green's role, who was over 100 targets, and through the first 11 games of the season with Joe Burrow was actually on pace for 123 for that season. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be a bit of narrative street, but I think he exceeds that because Joe Burrow did make such a push for him to be drafted at that point. I almost feel like it's going to be a point of he is going to prove that it was the right pick. So I do think 130 targets is on the table for Ja'Marr Chase. And while he may not be the route runner, the separator that Brandon Aiyuk is, again, if you didn't see the report, he's not getting as much separation as they would have hoped. That's expected. That's a part of his profile coming out of college. We knew that. So I'm not putting a lot of stock in it. But again, with 130 targets, that 20 target difference, I'm going to go after the volume, although I do think Brandon Aiyuk is going to be very close behind in terms of just points at the end of the season.
Yeah, and on the whole, like Ja'Marr Chase isn't getting separation in practice reports. I would say that I don't care about that at all. You know, also because like I don't necessarily trust somebody like watching from the sideline to really know like, oh yeah, he's getting this much separation on this routes, whatever.
2 yards here, 1 yard.
Yeah, it's just as long as he's like getting the playing time. Right. And getting the practice time in there, I don't think you should care about that at all. And I mean, to your point, that the one thing that does worry me about Jamar Chase just the tiniest bit is I think his best attribute. And he has a lot of great attributes including his route running. I thought his route running was impressive as a college receiver who played a lot of X out there as the ISO receiver. He is going to be their vertical ball winner because that's what he was great at in college. And the one thing that does worry me is that like there was no more inefficient pass last year than Joe Burrow to AJ Green down the field. Like some of that is 100% an AJ Green thing because he's at the end of his career, just didn't play well last year. But how much of it is also Joe Burrow? Like I don't think he is the strongest arm passer in the NFL, and I think a lot of people would kind of agree with that. So is he gonna? It's weird to say that because they made so much good music in college, and maybe I'm just overthinking it, but. Maybe there is some like just is he the guy to maximize Chase in year one behind an offensive line that is still a work in progress? Like I understand their logic with the Chase pick over Penei Sewell, but no doubt about it, their vertical passing game is still a bit of a question mark.
Absolutely. And again, that is really you say you might be splitting hairs. That's what we have to do though, again, with guys 100%. Like these, when you're making those decisions in these tiers. And for me, I mean, while I don't want to put a ton of stock, and you kind of touched on it in what Brandon Aiyuk, his target share when Kittle was on the field versus when he wasn't. I'm not so much worried about Debo. There wasn't a huge variation in targets, but with Kittle, I mean, it's 5.5 targets to 10.5. Like that is a large enough gap where I'm like, okay, even in a small sample size, that piques my interest a little bit. Just even target share again, because you're talking about lower volume, 17% to 27%. So it's something to keep an eye on. I'm not as much so much worried about Debo being on the field or not. Kittle is the one. If Kittle were to go down, and given his play style, it happens. Aiyuk then is light years ahead of Jamar Chase because the volume argument just goes out the window. So again, I think you're banking on injuries for Aiyuk a little bit in terms of true, I think, wide receiver one upside. And Jamar Chase is battling his own volume issues here. Or with Boyd and Higgins.
Right. No, I mean, there's the thing with both of these guys is that it's tough to get them to like a wide receiver one, like top 12 type of target share. It's impossible as long as Higgins and Boyd play, as long as Kittle and Samuel play. Like Aiyuk is not getting that. Chase is not getting that. There is that injury upside, I think, for both players, because you could say the same thing then with Jamar Chase. Like if something was to happen to T. Higgins, if something was to happen to Tyler Boyd, or even Joe Mixon, another player who's been unreliable in his career, like there is upside for more targets with injuries with these particular players. But yeah, that's why they both are in this wide receiver 20 to 25 range, is because you can't get them the volume, despite the fact that we both expect them to be superstar receivers very soon. Yeah, I love Aiyuk's profile, and I also just love the 49ers offense this year. I think that Trey Lance taking over could just it's gonna impact the volume because he's a run first quarterback. He's a rookie quarterback. I mean, run first. He's a mobile quarterback, right?
That's a good way to put
it. Is the actual way to put it. It's going to impact the volume overall, but it could also boost the efficiency. I'm a little worried about the Bengals offense, which is probably is almost a lock to be more passing volume heavy than the 49ers, but I'm a little worried about the efficiency in that situation where you can definitely bank on that, I think, with the Niners.
No, I am with you. And so before we wrap up, we're a little bit over here. It is what it is. For Dynasty, are you on Aiyuk or Jamar Chase here? And I think this is one that has started to be floated out there a little bit because Aiyuk is rising up everybody's board, it seems. So where do you land with these two?
Yeah, I think I don't know about you, man, but like when ranking for Dynasty and like just preference with Dynasty, I'm always like, if I've seen it in the NFL, I feel a little bit better about it. And like, I'm not one of these, like, I'm not taking Jamar Chase as a rookie because he's never played a down in the NFL or anything like that. Or I'm not taking Najee here. Like, I remember when people didn't want to take Zeke in the first round his rookie year because he never played a snap in the NFL. No one cares. That doesn't matter to me. But I think like, these guys would be very close in my rankings, and just right now I might break the tie a little bit closer to Aiyuk because I've already seen him excel in an alpha receiver role. I think Chase is going to do that, and probably I might flip it by the end of the year, but right now I'm just such a believer in Aiyuk, I think I'd have him ahead.
I land the exact same way. I have seen Aiyuk do great things with volume, even a little bit of volume. He's proven he has it. And again, we all think Jamar Chase does. We all expect him to, but you know what? I'd like to see it first before I put him ahead of some of the guys like this. All right, everybody. that does it for us here at 14 Personnel. Matt, thanks for hopping on, man. This is a blast.
Always good talking to you, man. I really appreciate it.
Recurring guest of 14 Personnel now at this point. So we'll get you for number 3 here soon. Everybody else, thanks for listening. Subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere else. We will see you guys next time.